Hey, what's up, Pisces? Welcome back to this timeless and general tarot reading. So first thing I will do is apologize. There is a issue with this fabric on my setup here. When I remove enough color from the scene, it kind of readjusts this funky effect. So it's something I'm still working on fixing. So I apologize for that. Something interesting was, it turns out that I might have jinxed my Pisces fandom just a smidgen. My two leading Pisces videos were still Pisces videos. They both got between them 350 views, which is close to half my views. The next Pisces video only got 33 views. So I definitely have to work on the delivery here. Oh, and look at that. As soon as I'm saying that, we've already got Pisces on the bottom of the deck. Oops, sorry, let me get that into position. So we've got the Moon, Pisces energy on the bottom of the deck already, so that's a good sign. It's a good sign that you are having a reading that's actually going to spill out here and not take forever. The last read took a second to spool up, but it actually went pretty quick once the cards started coming out. But as you might know by now, my personal style is to take clear signs and not just draw cards off the top, even though that would be really convenient. And I get that, and I understand why other people do that. Some of them even do it very well. You even have the Star, which is your energy. So the Moon and the Star both trying to come out for you here. Or excuse me, the Star is Aquarius energy, my bad. Yep, my bad. Hasty decision, I suppose. The Moon is yours, though. I know that because I just had to add it to your thumbnail image. Alright, Pisces, you'll have to excuse me. There are timestamps below if you would like to skip to when the first card drops, or to skip to the conclusion if you so choose. But it is going to take me a minute or two here to get something clear for you to come out. So bear with me as I figure out what it is that Spirit wants you to know. Also, as listed below, make sure that you adhere to all disclaimers. I am not responsible for you misusing the truth imparted by this message if it is not meant for you. It is your responsibility to take your own actions as you see fit. So usually what I do anyways is I don't tell you what to do, but I suggest where the patterns are at. Which is not quite it's not quite saying that you should go do this or that. Even though often enough that's the point. From what the energies are suggesting. There's often a suggestion of what to do about it. Most of my readings don't have weird insinuations of death or anything like that. I had one reading recently which was a little close to that. Somebody getting hurt. But I made it more about the energy required to get out of that than getting all focused on that in particular. So thank you for bearing with me up to this point, Pisces. I didn't get a split there. Or I didn't get a solid landing there on the shuffle. So I don't know what's up. This reading is definitely, besides for the Moon on the bottom of the deck for you, I'm having trouble getting anything to come out. Queen of Cups on the bottom of the deck, water energy. Page of Cups on the split, water energy. So there's something trying to come out here for you. The Moon, water energy, Queen of Cups, Page of Cups. Emotional capacity is very dreamy energy. Especially with the Moon involved, it's very intuitive, like mentalized intuition and stuff like that. Or maybe not mentalized, but vivified intuition. Sort of mixed in with the dreaming nature of your emotionality. With the Moon mixed into that, so I'm curious about what the heck is trying to come out here for you. And as soon as I say that, you do get the Judgment card rolling out. So I don't know what this is going to ensue for you. And as you can see, the light here is still a little messed up. depending on where we put the card. So the card will kind of shift around here a little bit as I go. I'm going to have to clarify what else is being insinuated by this judgment card. It could be a call to your judgment, to sound judgment. It can clarify into sound judgment. It also can represent the idea that the utter reality and its momentums are going to take effect, and that the judgment comes from on high, and that it is higher capacity's prerogative, regardless of how you feel about it, sometimes to impart these judgments. So what kind of judge, and it's in the upright, which means that it could still be a tough situation even in the upright, because it's positive in higher power's prerogative, even though it could be unpleasant in a personal capacity. So it's a tricky card. It can very much come down to just talking about your own personal judgment in a situation. But there is, depending upon clarification, that risk of it having that capacity to refer to higher power taking its effect. It's taking its effect on the utter reality, irregardless of that effect on us. So it's got a very strong and tough connotation, but it's also why it's the only card, right? That's also why it what's the word I'm looking for? Preludes. That is also why it precedes the World card in the Major Arcana, because upon that higher power's completion, which in our local instance on the Earth, the higher power is the world in its capacity. When that capacity passes its judgment, it's for the completion of a cycle to that world's end. So I'm curious about some clarifications here, Great Goddess, because I can't leave it at this judgment. Ace of Wands at the bottom of the deck. The idea that it was coming out though with the Moon and the Page of Cups, Knight or Queen of Cups on the split kind of thing, like that speaks more to the judgment that is getting inspired by your vivified imagination. So the Page of Cups, Queen of Cups, kind of signifying the idea that the individual, or more specifically, not so much the individual, but the energy of those two cards is very strong in terms of like daydreaming of the future. Not like you're wasting your time, but a lot of times you're dreaming about better feeling things. And that's also where some tribulation can strike, because of the idea that sometimes you become gullible in that dreaming if it's spurned by positive emotionality. There's also the capacity to dream incorrectly. So what you're dreaming about, even though it can feel proper, can actually be based on faulty mentalism and on false judgment. And that false mentalism is part of what the Moon card is insinuating, because the Moon card is when mental capacity is overriding intuitive capacity, is interfering with the truth of the intuitive quality, and there is some kind of a mental illusion that has taken hold, which is not in fact true, but like seems true based off of like common sense, but sometimes it's not the case. And it's a test, and in that instance, that what's being tested is your judgment. The other reality of what's going on is your judgment is under the microscope, because the cause and effect from whatever you're going to do in that faulty mentalism is going to play out. And that process of choosing the right vivified imagination to rest your cause and effect upon is judgment. It's your judgment. And with the Moon playing into this, there's just like a smidge of an idea. You have a card trying to come out for you. There's a smidge of an idea that dreaming capacity is interfering with your judgment. And dealing with that comes down to, it does come down to feeling proper, which is where like you might identify with your emotions, but I would like some more clarity on this, but there's a sign that you are being possibly called to rectify that judgment to some degree. And I haven't had a clear message on the moon or the water energies, but that's sort of what's coming out here a little bit. That's essentially what the gist of those cards together is signifying. And sometimes you can meet your demise on faulty judgment. So that's a potential why this judgment card is tricky to base too much off of until it's clarified, because the judgment can yield good or ill, even in the upright. It's not about it being good for you, it's about the judgment being righteous from its higher source, which is usually in the form of cause and effect taking its toll no matter what you think about it or feel about it. So I'm just curious if there's no more. There's the moon on the bottom of the deck again. So sometimes when it starts to correlate that much, I wind up taking that card out of the deck, even though it doesn't drop. So if I get a third moon correlation that's not just on the bottom here, I will in fact just take the moon card, because it's synonymous with the other energy that's been emerging here. And I'm even getting a good sign. Sun and the Six of Wands. Whoops. Nice. And on the split, what did I get? Devil, Eight of Swords. Sometimes it doesn't stick properly, so. Alright, so let's see what we've got here. Great Goddess, can we please get some extra clarity for this Pisces? The energy is pretty clear so far, but I would still like some more exact clarifications. What is this? There's the Eight of Swords again. If the Eight of Swords is wanting to make itself seen, it's almost like you're kind of trapped in a complacent mentalism, which is... Ooh, and right then I got the Queen of Pentacles coming out in reverse. So it's not your energy off the top. So the thing about the Queen of Pentacles is, in the reverse, is there's an issue where this person can in fact be known as an emotional blackmailer. Is one of the best ways I've heard about this individual. A lot of times they it's kind of like a Cruella de Vil. Like, she's got all this material wealth, but she's just unsavory to be around because she's got this cruelty in her heart. The same thing for like that freaking Meryl Streep character that's has Anne Hathaway in the movie, where she's very career successful, but she's just such a bitter person to be around that it's hard to help her. It's just a conniving type, and that is a person that's going to be in a loose state because it basically means they're not following their intuition properly, regardless of their material success. So even though they're doing all this stuff to get this material success, it probably just never feels as good as it could. And to feel better, and also it might just be that they're resting on this issue of judgment, where they aren't aware of the fact that certain mental truths they hold actually are not intuitive truths. And if they keep relying on those and they keep identifying with their emotional resonance in those mentalisms, then they are on faulty judgment, and they are embodying the quality of the moon, which is where they are just not. There's going to be natural ramifications in cause and effect from being produced from that state of being. And the Judgment card is suggesting that this individual, or at least whatever this energy is embodying, is going to meet the utter reality of the decisions they are relying upon. And that can be a lot to take in, because What the heck do you mean my mentalism is faulty? Like, it's supposed to be only my own mentalism, I thought. I was under the impression that that was the only thing in life I have control over. So I must be right. I must be matched in my emotional resonance to believe in myself. How else did I get these pentacles? How else do I take care of myself? How else do I this? How else do I that? And I understand where you're coming from because I've struggled with my own judgments and my own utter realities of cause and effect. And I can sympathize with not understanding how my very own vivified imagination can be out of my control, such to a point where it serves me sometimes and does not serve me other times. And it's the hardest when I see other people who just don't seem to struggle with that at all, because then it's like they don't have my perspective to understand what I'm going through, so all they can see is that I'm making excuses. But there's nothing I can say back to them because I don't have material abundance because of that issue, and they do. So there's just this like weird dynamic where like I'm not supposed to be able to tell them anything about life because look at all the success they've got, and I don't have any success in this scenario. So like, who am I to tell them that it's not just about hard work and effort, and that I'm just making excuses for this or that? Okay, so right when I say that, you get the card of this card means achieved success. So we're looking at we're half looking at this Queen of Wands, Queen of Pentacles becoming more pleasant to be around. That is actually kind of what is being signified here. And it is a good card of, what was I discussing? I was discussing other people who don't understand, other people who apparently lack that faulty judgmental capacity, and to succeed, and then like have no sympathy for people who have that faultiness. But then the people with the faultiness aren't supposed to ever say anything to the people who don't, because apparently we need to know our place because we're not successful. Kind of bullcrap. Like, and that shit's so annoying. And I'm like, I've kind of built a shield in myself to that, because if that successful individual doesn't have the capacity to love me like higher power does, then I get to listen to higher power instead of them, no matter what they have to say about me. And what higher power says about me is that there's this faulty judgment, because the higher power can see inside of me and inside of all of you, and they understand that that faulty judgment is there. So there's not this point where like spirit gets on board and says, yeah, that's right, you suck, just like that successful person said. That means you have to be less than yourself. It's not the truth. The spirit does in fact see the good in you. It understands the fact that the judgmental issue is there. So spirit's not sitting there thinking that you need to like serve the people with material success. And it's never going to let you feel like it either, for the most part. Except for souls born to serve like that, I suppose. It's their resonance. Maybe they will be fine feeling like that, but I think a lot to most of us do not, in fact, like that. So I'm sorry that I tangented there, but it's actually something very personal to me. Because I feel like I could be very great if I could defeat this faulty judgment, which, look at that, with the moon on the bottom of the deck, which is a sign of getting over that illusion, which is, I said I was going to pull this out if it came up again. So I'm going to. And it's in the reverse, which is very good, because that is a sign of getting over that. It's kind of how the moon is a sign of things not as they seem. So in the reverse, it kind of flips the negativity of a typical reversed card, and the moon can, in fact, it represents getting over, like it represents seeing through the illusion, which is what's being called for here. The Lovers on the bottom of the deck keeps coming through here, which is sort of in line with what I was suggesting. Let's see here, we're at 20 minutes. The message is quite clear, and if anybody can actually embolden their spirit enough to rise above this Queen of Pentacles reverse feeling, to reach this, I forgot what my book called that, but they called it the Three of Cups, because the Two of Cups was the Lord of Love, and the Three of Cups, I think, was it's like the Lord of achieved success or something. Like, all of these people are celebrating because they've achieved victory, kind of. So it's like, it's the celebration of victory. Or the celebration of a success, more specifically, because the Six of Wands represents Lord of Victory in particular. But so I don't know what this is all about, but it's pointing to the energy of the Queen of Pentacles turning around here, and that they aren't going to be stuck in that emotional blackmail mode, that like really bitter attack mode, really bitter toxic quality. And I keep getting the King of Pentacles on the bottom of the deck. Lovers, King of Pentacles pair. Maybe this Queen of Pentacles could find her King of Pentacles finally. So I don't know if there's anything else Spirit needs to clarify here. The moon coming out plenty. Energetic Pisces energy coming through a couple times in the reading, signifying kind of boosting up this idea of needing to attune mentalism differently, rely on different judgments, which is enough to bring out that rant about faulty judgment. And it's a topic for another day, why I think that judgment is faulty and what I think the source of that faulty judgment is. But it's a story for another day. Guess it's not, or here's a hint, it's not you. Even though you have the capacity to overcome that faulty judgment, and the universe is never going to remove the source of the judgment, because higher power, like, has love for it as well. But you were endowed with the capacity to overcome it. And I say that not understanding in myself yet how to come it, or how to overcome it. I've only ever experienced overcoming it for brief moments, and in those moments I am massively empowered within myself. And I'm massively empowered very specifically about my judgments. Like, the emotional, rational resonance is perfected in those moments, and my judgment is the purest it could ever be. And my ability to cast judgment properly for everyone involved is spectacular. Becomes absolutely spectacular. But it's very fleeting. I've only been able to hold that state 2 or 3 times for 10-20 seconds at a time. And I always fall into that state accidentally. I'm never able to retain a way back to it. But the faulty judgment is eviscerated in that state of being. It has to do with feeling exactly correctly. You're empowered by your heart, by your your spiritual heart is emboldened and empowered, and is so bright and pure that it shuns away all forms of faulty judgment within your mind, and all that's left is the purest form of wisdom you can imagine. And it resonates between your heart and your mentalism. Your emotions and your mentalism are on board with each other, and they're in this exponential resonance, and it's a beautiful experience. And it's exactly what we all deserve in our lives, to be guided by higher source to such a fashion. alas, the influence strikes and takes away from some of us. I don't know why that is. And despite my strivings to do something about it, I'm still struggling against it. The only thing I've ever figured might work is I have to have enough money to like feel like I'm my freest self. But I have never been able to get that money. I've never been able to find that material abundance despite my efforts. And I kind of understand if I'm trying to defy that resistance, then of course it's making it difficult for me to free myself. So I shouldn't be too surprised, but I've still got to figure out how the heck to retain my greatest quality. So I have really rambled on here about this, but it's interesting how this is coming out in particular because it's something that is very important to me, and it's something I'm dealing with on a personal level. So if you can resonate with dealing with this, and the Pisces reads seem to be like that to a certain extent, because the Pisces reads I've had, especially the ones with all the views, are about like taking a strong look at the source of your own weakness. And about one of them was literally called the inability to see truth is causing others to leave you. And that's about this judgment here. That's about this judgment being faulty, and that faulty judgment building up that kind of momentum. So the fact that it's resonating with Pisces is very interesting. It's very interesting that it's coming out in this reading as well. And I'm very proud that I could share this with someone, because I've never really been able to articulate it with anybody who will care too much about it, who never seems to care too much about it. I always just get the whole life's hard thing, deal with it thing, but if you felt the way that I felt, you'd know that life doesn't have to be the hardest thing ever. It doesn't have to be the most ridiculous struggle session the universe has ever seen. It can be something so much better, so much greater than that. And something that I've dedicated my life to fighting for, because it's part of what higher power wants to see from us. They want to feel us in that resonance as well. But the coolest thing to them is when we can find it when we can maybe not find it all by ourselves, but figure it out for ourselves as much as possible, because it's such a challenge. Humanity overcoming that challenge would be more interesting than any higher power just helping us solve the problem without us solving it. And it's probably going to be the struggle of our age, since we seem to be able to dominate basically everything else that's supposed to be the trouble. So we're down to the last wire, which is that the struggle is not of this earth, not of this plane of existence. And we've only got more and more life to live as this world continues to push its material technology. We only have more and more ease to go as we figure out better and better ways to have prosperity, but there's eventually going to be a point where we start to realize that the problems are no longer coming from us. That our goals are to do everything that we can to make life better, but there's always this strange resistance, and eventually it's going to shift our culture into a search inward for where the hell our tribulation truly lies. And for some of us, it's not just us. I dare argue that for the greatest of us, it is, in fact, well outside of us, because it sees our potential and targets us in particular and holds us down due to our great potential. So if you resonate with what I'm suggesting here, then there's a good shot that you have the potential to reach this space I speak of. And you have the potential to be one of those great children of humanity who can embrace that spirit and embrace that power, which is what it is. It's a power to not be held down and limited by this living and by the dark entities that are free to have their power upon us, because there will never be an entity, there will never be a higher source that wants to rid us of them because of the potential interest of how splendid and how spectacular it is when humanity can find that source of their own volition, because it is so stacked against us to find it. The majesty, the immaculance of a world healed from that darkness is always going to be more interesting than just solving the problem for us. So I'm sorry that we have to put up with this. And I'm sorry because I've tried for a long time to figure out how to deal with this, and I have not made it yet. Going down this route has made it even more difficult in a lot of ways. Alright, Pisces, I'm going to conclude the video. I'm literally have just been rambling on here at 31 minutes. Hopefully you found it interesting. I guess we'll have to see how the timestamp looks. To conclude here, as for the reading, there is some kind of individual who is finding themselves in a sort of form of toxic behavior, and this toxic behavior is reinforced by this individual's material success. The issue is that this material success has armed this individual with the idea that they can perhaps belittle others or find themselves bigger than their subordinates or their help. And it can also lead to a sort of paranoid notion where the individual is in a scarcity mindset where they don't want to actually lose their stuff, so they're super hard on other people. Maybe they aren't happy in their own life, so it bleeds over onto others. This energy of some kind of materially successful toxic feminine energy is being called to sort of retrace their steps and really consider what their actions are going to yield for them. They're being called to take a look within their internal capacity to make judgment. They are being called to kind of check their heart to a certain extent, intuitively speaking, and try to peel away at the sort of mental layers that are blocking an open heart that is required to turn this toxic energy around and be even more abundant than this person could possibly have ever dreamed of if their judgment is like this. And this reading is showing good signs that this individual is going to listen, because they've got the upright Judgment, they've got the upright Three of Cups, which is a card of success and celebration, and then they've got the Moon in reverse, which is a sign of casting off illusions. So there's a good sign that this Queen of Pentacles is going to be able to listen to this and learn from it and apply these things. The signs are good. So perhaps my little rant helped or something like that, but that's what the energy is here. It's acknowledging this state of being, this toxic state of being, but as in a lot of the other Pisces readings, even though there's this kind of self negativity, the external factors are usually good, which is very interesting. And I think it's I know the first two Pisces readings were just like that. And maybe the third one was as well. I can't exactly remember that one, but 3 to 4 to 4 to 4. Whomever this is being suggested as maybe lacking some internal capacity, but the potential's there to turn it all around. And it points to this internalization of your judgment. And like I said, it's not always as simple as other people who don't suffer from this judgmental deficiency. They don't see the struggle, and they very often they cannot sympathize. It's not that they won't, it's that they cannot. Some of them perhaps do, but it's so easy for them to cast it off as laziness or ineptitude. Those are the absolute last people that need to be shaping who you are. You cannot let them hold you down like that inside of yourself. And you have got to accept within yourself that this faulty judgment, while you have the capacity to do better and even perhaps overcome it, you cannot simultaneously let it break your internal confidence about who you are. And you cannot let it win in defining who you are. If it wins in defining who you are, you get stuck in this negative energy, basically. You've got, and it's really tough when certain people around you know how to sink their hooks in, because it literally shifts your heart space. And it's so hard to break out of the mentalisms that come fueled by that negativism, because those are all mentalisms that are designed to validate your lack. And if you can't bust out of that heart space and take back who you are, you get stuck in that mentalism. So it's not like you just change what you're thinking about. If your heart is stuck in that mode, it's empowering the other thoughts. It's empowering the validity of the other thoughts. And it's not just about thinking something else. You have to shatter yourself out of that negative heart by remembering what is good about you and putting aside the bad. You've got to put the bad aside. The memories of the bad, the realities of the bad, all of the bad that others see, all of the bad that others can leverage upon you, all of the bad that they even have evidence of you. You don't just have to, you get to put it aside. You get to put it aside to hold your sacred heart space, to redeem what is good in you, and to reveal what is good about you to at least yourself. And you can retune your quality of mind to what is good about you. And it doesn't have to be fake it till you make it bull crap. It can be what is truly good about you. And that might be the hardest part for you, is finding what's good about you, when there's this whole mountain of evidence to the contrary. And when you're so used to looking for what's bad about you to overcome it, you might not be remembering what's good about you. So like, that is, I don't know why I'm going this far with this, like, but like, if there's like even one other person that can hear all of this and like heal from it, that is a severe healing. It's a severe spiritual healing. And it's like, it's the greatest gift I can impart, because I have felt how it feels to heal that judgment and fight that judgment and defeat that judgment. And the way that judgment holds you down, especially from other people, is so toxifying to me. And our culture and our society normalizes it as a sort of dog-eat-dog, winner-take-all type of materialist thing. And it turns my gut over. And I literally want to slay those types of individuals for the darkness they endow upon their fellows. Their fellows who could reach to such potentials if empowered in the right way. And they are being like that instead. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it being wrought through humanity in all of our history, with the rare individuals who would dare to fight it being torn asunder for such a thing. Because at the end of the day, that resonance is love. And being able to embrace that love of yourself is a huge step into finding this judgment. So when those other people manage to control us like that, they don't have love. They at least don't act it out for us. It's time that we don't keep serving them for it. We don't have to be their emotional sponge because we are the ones with the quality enough to love others and they are not. I'm not sure what else to say about that. I could go really deep. This is one of my deepest depths of emotionality and what I feel about things in life. Like, so I could just, there's a part of me that wants to toxify beyond measure talking about this kind of thing, but I better be careful with that. So I think for now I'm just going to call this, it's straightforward enough. There's a sign here to take to a more optimistic perspective, apply a more optimistic judgment so it can serve your cause and effect in ways that you desire to achieve a better existence in terms of how you feel and your abundance and everything like that. And it's even a great sign here that you're not going to struggle with figuring this out. And that's absolutely wonderful to see because I've been trying for a long time. And even though I can put my finger on it, I still don't understand how to do it at will. So if you can figure out, I would appreciate that. I would appreciate anyone else in the world who thinks this matters in making this work. So I really appreciate that you were here. And I'm very proud that I was able to share all of this with you. So thank you very much, and I will see you next time. Take care.